Welcome, brothers. I'm JK Amazy, head coach and founder of the Porn Reboot system. Now, in the past, I've put out lists which concern the different things that I've noticed men who have stayed off pornography for a year or 2 years, the different things that have actually caused them to slip. And sometimes, guys go through these different lists, but I think the one thing that holds many men back from taking action is that there are a lot of men who have not gotten to that 1 year point, or who have not gotten to the 2 year point. So the truth is, those lists, if you find them on my YouTube channel, are better suited for my private clients who've been through the Porn Reboot system. But if you're a man who has maybe gained a couple of months, even though I'm not for counting, I understand there's some men out there who will still count, but if you're a man who has gotten to maybe 4 months free of porn and masturbation, 5 months on your own or using some other system, I understand that you might be a little bit apprehensive at the prospect of slipping. You might be wondering, well, what is it that I could do that would cause me to slip? I really want to avoid that. So instead of giving you a long list, which complicates things, I'm just going to break it down into 4 things that you shouldn't do, all right? If you can stick to these 4, then it doesn't matter whether you're in my system or not. You have a very, very good chance of maintaining your reboot to the point that your brain can rewire. The first is, don't stop planning. The truth is, you have to plan your perfect life, right? Chances are you didn't just get to 4 months or 5 months or 6 weeks or whatever amount of time that you've stayed off pornography and masturbation randomly. You had a plan, you had a vision, you know where you are going. The mistake I see a lot of men make is that they suddenly stop planning. Once you get to, let's say, the longest time free from porn or masturbation that you've ever gotten to, you just stop planning because you're so excited to be there, and you relax a little bit. You're like, you know what, I've made great progress, this is good. But the danger of this is when you stop planning, you become reactive. Life actually starts happening to you. For the past couple of months, you had been disciplined, there were certain things you were doing, you had goals, and the minute you stop doing that, we're not perfect. It doesn't matter what plans we set up, life is still going to somehow show up and screw them up a little bit. But it's better to have a plan than to have no plan, because when you have a plan, you can respond to the things that happens to you, which means that you can actually think about them and deal with them. But without a plan, you're going to become reactive. And being reactive involves a lot of emotions, and it's very likely that this is going to cause you to slip or relapse. So never stop planning. I understand that sometimes it can feel a little bit tiring to plan things, but here's the thing. In the real world, and by the real world I mean the world of men who are not ruled by their sexual behavior, people actually have plans. Believe it or not, people plan for months ahead, they plan for 6 months from now, they have plans for what they're going to do in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and in some cases even a decade ahead. There are people who have rough plans for that. So if you're not used to making plans, it can seem a little bit challenging, like, man, I gotta put in all this work. Well, welcome to being free of pornography and masturbation addiction. The second thing is, don't forget the price you paid to get to wherever you are, right? I don't care whether you've been off pornography for 9 months or whether you've been off for 9 weeks, right? What matters is that for you, this is a milestone. And if you ever find yourself reminiscing about the good old days, right? The days where you were chatting with some random woman on the internet and masturbating together, thinking of the days when you would get high or you would drink and just enjoy pornography and feel good about it, catch yourself and remind yourself that, man, I paid a heavy price back then, and I also paid a heavy price to get to where I am right now. Anytime you reminisce about a behavior that you do not want in your life anymore, you're actually investing in it emotionally. And there's only so much energy you have to invest in the things that you want. You want to spend that energy investing in the future emotionally. If you're going to fantasize about something, if you're going to visualize something, if you're going to think about something that's positive, think about something that's positive in the future. And remember one of the key foundations of the porn reboot system, and that is remembering that your future is always bigger than your past. Invest in your future, not in your past, mentally. The next is don't get too attached to the past. Now this is different from the point I just made. The point I just made was don't forget the price that you paid. What I'm talking about is not being attached to your past. Now, rebooting and rewiring your brain requires change. And it doesn't matter how far ahead you are or how much progress that you've made, chances are you're going to still have to keep making change in different areas of your life. You might need to hang out with new friends, you might need to go to different places, you might need to change your environment, you might need to try new hobbies, different things. And that pull to go back to the familiar can be very, very strong, right? Maybe you've set up a new routine where you go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, and suddenly your friends who haven't seen you for a while, who are from your past where you slipped a lot, are like, hey man, come out and hang out with us, be social. And you tell yourself, you know what, I'm isolating myself. This is probably going to lead to a slip. So you go out and hang out with them, have a few drinks. Next thing you know, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're tired, you're a little bit tipsy or drunk. You end up coming home and relapsing. Right? You justified it, you rationalized it by telling yourself that you were being social and this was a good thing. But when you really think about it, the truth is that you were attached to that thing from the past. You were more attached to hanging out with your friends than you were to sticking with your boundary. So as you move forward, some of these things that you're changing, because they are new to you, like going to bed at a certain time, or not visiting certain websites, or not watching certain things, or staying away from certain social media, they're not going to feel like the most comfortable things. And that's okay. Sometimes you're going to think back and go like, ah man, I really want to go back to that place. I really want to go check out that site and see if there's anything new. Not a pornography site, just a site that induces a lot of dopamine. Right? Don't be too attached. Open your mind to moving forward and to your new experiences. Sometimes people wonder about, they're like, let's say you see a woman who is in an abusive relationship, like she's being battered, right, in that relationship. Maybe she's being verbally abused or physically abused. And you wonder, why doesn't this woman just leave that guy, right? Why doesn't she leave him? And we think sometimes that, we're a little righteous, but like, I wouldn't put up with something like that. Oftentimes, people who stay in abusive relationships only stay in those abusive relationships because it's familiar, because they are afraid of a new experience. So what that actually says is that many of us as human beings are so used to things that are comfortable and familiar that we will put up with all sorts of pain that damages our self-esteem than actually go for a new experience, push ourselves to try something different. So with that in mind, that should give you some perspective and help you understand how challenging it can be sometimes to let go of the familiar. The final thing is, don't go for highs all the time. And here's what I mean. A lot of men that I've worked with who have some sort of sexually compulsive disorder or an addiction to pornography or masturbation, most of them really enjoy the thrill of their behavior, right? It's the thrill of acting out. It's the thrill of stepping out on your partner. It's the thrill of watching some sort of taboo pornography. And in other aspects of your life, you all often find yourself chasing that high. But now that you've gotten to a point where you've been off porn and masturbation or your sexually compulsive behavior for a certain amount of time, living a life where you have a lot of highs makes it very easy for you to feel sorry for yourself when you're low. So when something negative happens to you, or you feel a little depressed, or you feel a little bit sad, which is going to happen. Staying off porn is not going to make you this happy-go-lucky person 24/7, but it's going to make you feel a little bit more sorry for yourself, because you think back and you go like, man, like I'm a guy who likes enjoying himself. You may not think this consciously, but it could be an unconscious thought that runs through your mind. That, you know what, I'm the type of guy who enjoys thrills. I like adventure. I like extreme things. And often some men just find it very difficult to envision a life where they're not going to have any highs. So here's the thing, you don't need to have these short highs that end in a crash, usually a relapse or a depressive episode, something that you regret. Instead, as you progress in your reboot, make your highs more enduring than extreme. And what I mean is that instead of taking an experience, whatever it is, and trying to squeeze all the dopamine that you can out of it, like I'm gonna take this to the max, instead of taking it to, let's say, a 10, start taking it to a 7, right? There's a saying that we had back in the day when I sold books door to door, and that was that if you wanted to make a lot of sales, the person who made a lot of sales was not the guy who was a 10. He was not the guy who was performing at his peak, because that guy would perform really well one week, and the next week he wouldn't make a sale at all, right? Because he was a guy who always went for the extremes. And you probably know people like that, people who accomplish things and they're just on this amazing high, and you can predict, you're like, yeah, next week they're going to be down, they're going to be low, right? So the saying we had was be a 7. The most successful people were a 7. Like, they were above average, but they were good enough, and they were consistent. Over time, they beat everybody else out because of that consistency. And you can do the same thing with every dopamine inducing experience, which means never overdo it, but do it enough that you are satisfied. One of the big issues when it came to out of control behavior, if we were to use a more explicit example, would be you saying, you know what, I'm just going to go on this website and I'm going to just watch one scene from pornography. And I'm not encouraging this by using this example, but you don't do that. You end up going from genre to genre to genre until you get to that genre that really excites you, that's really taboo, and then you end up feeling terrible about yourself right after that, right? So again, make your highs more about something that is enduring than something that is extreme. Now, today I don't have enough time, unfortunately, to give examples of different highs that you can chase that would be a replacement for your behavior with pornography, but I do have another video which is called Replacing Your Behavior with Pornography with Positive Addictions, and all you need to do is go to the little search bar at the top of our YouTube channel and search for positive addictions, and it will pull it up. And if you want more detailed examples, you're more than welcome to join our Facebook group. It's called the Porn Reboot Group. It's a private group where you can find accountability partners and you can learn more about our system. So there you have it, brothers. The 4 things that you want to avoid if you want to maintain your reboot in the long term. I hope you found this helpful. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Now, if you are not a subscriber to the channel, but you're looking for advice on how to control your out of control behavior, I release videos 4 times a week every week. Make sure you subscribe and click on the little bell icon so that you get notifications each time I release a video. In the YouTube app, go to notifications and turn on subscriptions. In the settings, go to notifications and scroll to the YouTube app and allow notifications. And also, when you watch a video, if you feel that you have any questions, you're not sure of something, you're skeptical about it, feel free to leave your comment in the comment section below. I read through them every week and I will respond to you if you can't join my Facebook group for one reason or the other. And if you are at a point in this journey where you feel that, you know what, I don't think I'm able to do this on my own. I feel like I need some help. I feel like I need a system. What's a system? A system is something that's reliable, that is consistent, that is predictable, right? I feel like I need to speak to somebody who's been here before, who has seen this movie before, and not only did they finish the movie, they went on in their life and they thrived. Then you might be a good fit for one of our coaching programs. And the best way to apply is to click on the link in the description below this video, fill out our application, and speak to one of my team members, and they'll let you know which of my programs will be a good fit for you. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll speak to you later on in the week.